What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mike It Yourself, and we're doing the review on our Cerwin Vega speakers and our Avon hand grips. Let's check it out.
Tripping on fine. Oh, living lively. Everybody tryna ride my wave, they can ride me. Pull up in a foreign to the curb, looking icy.
Alright, guys, there you have it. Rap, rock. We use copyright-free music just so we don't get dinged. There are, I think, some really great songs that I've listened to on these speakers that really bring out how well they sound. Now, before I get into this, I just want to bring this up front. This is not a sponsored video, right? So for this video here today, nobody's paid me or given me anything for this video. So this is my true review of the Cerwin Vega speakers that I put into my 2017 Road Glide. So for the speakers themselves, they sound amazing. They're large. The magnet on the back of them is pretty big, so it is a little challenging, especially up for your fairing speakers. So you do have to modify the little, I don't know, cup, tub, whatever you want to call it, the housing for the subwoofer. And once you get it in, you have to install them from the front side because you won't be able to fit them through the front. So that is one thing I do want to call out. With your stock Harley-Davidson speaker, you don't have that because they have that itty-bitty magnet on the back side of that, so it's easier to maneuver. So with these bigger, higher quality speakers, you're going to run into that issue. I am sure that the other guys that make speakers out there, if they got a decent sized magnet on the back side of them, you're going to run into the exact same thing. The quality of sound is amazing. They're great. This is a high quality speaker. Cerwin Vega's been in the business for a very long time. I remember back in the 90s when I was a kid and going to house parties and everything, or, you know, going cruising down the boulevard, and people were, you know, playing their music. Man, if you had Vegas in the back of your trunk, or if you had a big old cabinet set up, a Cerwin Vega speakers for your DJ equipment, you knew it was going to be banging. And the smaller products, same thing. They sound really great. Down in the lower fairings, we also did the 6.5 Cerwin Vega speakers, and they sound great down there too. Now, the one thing I want to call out is expectation, right? So as you're installing these speakers, aftermarket speakers, put it in an amplifier, you may have expectations of what you're expecting as far as sound goes, okay? This is the stock housing, the stock, you know, small areas. These aren't acoustically tuned areas for any one particular speaker. And it's a motorcycle. So out of your areas like your fairing and your lowers, you're nearly not going to get that low, deep bass that you would get if you put a subwoofer in the trunk of your car. So make sure you keep that reality in check, right? Because I know that as people put stuff in, and I've done it in the past, and you turn it on and you listen to it and you're like, man, that just didn't hit like I thought it was. Do a quick reality check, a quick gut check and say, okay, realistically, am I making changes that would produce the outcome that I want? Not expect, but want, right? And what I mean by that is if you want that deep bass, you want it to hit hard, man, 6.5s ain't going to do it. 8-inch speakers probably ain't going to do it for you. You're probably looking for a 10, a 12, or 15, right? Like, let's be real. If you want that thump, man, that's what you're looking for. So if you're looking for that kind of sound, you're going to need to make modifications to your saddlebags, to your trunk, if that's where you want to store that stuff. Of course, battery upgrades, head unit upgrades. There's a ton of stuff that go along with making sound that produces that kind of output. So keep yourself in check. Just make sure you hang on to that reality. That said, let's talk about the sound of it, right? So this is being fed by our Cerwin Vega amplifier. It pushes these things plenty, right? No problems. In fact, my gain, I think setting is maybe 25 to 30%. There's no way that you could run these things on 100% gain. You know, the output is just too good, right? Or too strong, I should say, for it. As far as the frequency goes, so these specific speakers, and This is something that, I learned during the process of putting in audio systems to my own vehicles or whatever. Is what you want to do is look at the material, the documentation that comes in your speaker, because in there it calls out kind of the operating range of your speakers. So if your amplifier sensitivity starts at, we'll say, I don't know, like 40 hertz, but your speaker low end is only 70 hertz, then you're not going to capture any of that sound between 40 and 70 hertz, right? That's just not where the speaker performs. So you might as well adjust your sensitivity to match what your speaker output is. Now, in this particular application, we didn't use anything in between the speakers and the amplifier. And what I mean by that is we don't have a DSP and we don't have a line converter. So in the past, when I've done installations on my vehicles, it's mainly been around subwoofers is where I hook up my amp. I don't usually hook up the amp to the highs because I'll run off of a stock head unit, or I have put like one or two smaller units in there, but nothing major, right? I usually put in a line converter because the output from your stock head units generally doesn't line up with what you're trying to produce out of your lows. And so I've put in line converters to help that, to feed a mono amplifier or whatever, to just really produce the appropriate signal that you need going into that amplifier, so that way you get a good output from your subwoofer. In this case, I thought I was going to need a line converter for this, and that was just me being naive, I guess. So I bought one, installed it, didn't hear a difference, removed it, didn't hear a difference. So based on my experience and putting it in, taking it out, you don't need a line converter in this particular setup. So stock head unit, Cerwin Vega amplifier, Cerwin Vega speakers. Now, one of the things I want to mention, and it's something that I don't know. So being an average consumer, just like you, I looked at the DSP. So that's your digital signal processor. This is a piece of equipment that you put in line with everything, and it allows you to alter the frequencies of the sound coming out down to the channel level. So what does that mean? That means that if you have a component set up, like your mid is separate from your tweeter, you can knock out the frequencies that would destroy essentially a tweeter without having to put in capacitors or anything, filters like that, right? You can actually do it through your DSP. The other thing is, if you want to focus in just mid-bass to, say, your Farian speakers, then you can do that with the DSP. If you wanted to do a subwoofer and you wanted to just knock out everything except for those low frequencies that produce that bass, you can do that, based on that one particular channel. Now, for the Joe average user, the question is, do I need one? In order to make the sound good out of your bike, do you need a DSP? Doing research, I'm finding two opinions, and they all come from vendors, people who make and install speakers. So this is really confusing. What I mean by that is, I listened to one individual on YouTube and kind of did my research and heard what they had to say, and they were saying 100% you have to do two things when you do an aftermarket setup in your bike, especially if you keep your head unit. That is, one, you have to flash the head unit. And I 100% agree with that based on my experience. Rockford Fosgate, who has the agreement with Harley Davidson, has this posted on their website as well that says, if you're installing our equipment, you have to get your stereo flashed. The reason for that is Harley Davidson programs the head unit with essentially an EQ setting for both when the bike is off and running. And if you leave that in place and then amplify that, you're gonna blow your speakers, okay? And it sounds terrible, to be quite honest. So just be sure that if you're doing an aftermarket setup, get your stereo flash. That's a must. The second thing that this person said was, you absolutely 100% needed to have a DSP. And they give really great reasons, right? They talk about all the signals and adjusting and knobs and blah, 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 and all this kind of crazy stuff, right? And when I watch their videos of the work they've done, their setups sound amazing. So it leads me to believe that, hey, maybe this guy's telling the right thing. On the flip side, I've listened to another person and video, their video, and they say you 100% as an average person do not need a DSP. and they're saying you're going to get great quality sound off of the basic setup when you go buy the Rockford Fosgate package. I believe they actually sell the DSP separately if you want one, which means that tells me if you're getting a package and they don't include what you have to have in it, then maybe that's not true, right? So they talk about in that video where they said that you don't need that DSP, that really the need for that level of kind of perfecting sound is really when you're getting into that competition series, right? When you're really getting super serious about your audio. And I'll assume this: if you're a serious player in the audio biz, then you already know this stuff, and you're not listening to Mike tell you anything, right? So I do have a question on whether or not a DSP holds any value for somebody like me, just a common guy, right? So that is something I'm kicking around doing just because I want to test it out. I'm not saying you need one. I'm not saying you don't. But what I don't know is basically the truth for me. And that's something I'm going to look into. The other thing is I like, I like the simplicity of my head unit being the stock unit. It saves you a ton of dough by not replacing it. And quite honestly, even replacing just a regular head unit, if you wanted to go from this, like, I don't know, it's like an 8-button deal, to say the GT blah, whatever it is, that has your kind of touchscreen or your navigation on it, it's a significant investment, man. It's like $800 or higher easily all day if you look on eBay. When you compare that to the aftermarket stuff like Sony and Soundstream, I think is the other company. There's a couple of other companies out there that produce head units. The price point is, you can get them for more, or you can get them from actually a lot less. So it's kind of wild, the range of that, and where the stock head units from resellers, of course, people who've taken them out of their bikes and they're trying to sell it on eBay. And granted, you can charge whatever you want on eBay. Doesn't mean somebody's going to pay for it, but it seems like it's the going rate because everybody's got it posted about the same. So anyhow, long story short on that, I'm probably going to replace my head unit here in the future. I do like using apps from my phone for music, and this does okay, it barely makes the cut. I just want something that's a little bit more convenient, and I can get better, maybe some better sound out of it as well. So we'll see. So I'm going to do some more digging on this. I'll find out for you, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to what we installed on this bike, the 6.5 Cerwin Vega speakers, the amplifier, amazing sound. It sounds awesome. It is loud as hell. My initial tune of the amplifier, I had to adjust it because I had made it too loud. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but what I mean by too loud, not that I was rolling down the highway and the baby in the car next to me was going like that. Wasn't that kind of loud. What I mean by this is, as I pulled into my neighborhood and I had it on the single setting, the first pill of the volume setting, it was still pretty loud, right? And I'm conscious about my surroundings. I want to respect my neighbors. This is where I live. This is where they live. So, I want to treat them as I would expect them to treat me. So I had to adjust a little bit. And will continue to do so until I find that right spot. But like I said, it's not the sound quality, it's the volume that I'm working with for myself, generally speaking. So if you're wondering, is it worth it? 100%. And my code should still be good on their Cerwin Vega website. So if you go there, when you go to checkout, there should be a promotion code box. Throw in Mike It yourself, and I believe they knock off 10% of your purchase. So that's a pretty good savings, man. Tax-free, baby, right? So check it out. I hope you enjoy them as much as I did. All right, guys, let's talk about the ISO grips by Avon. And I told you all when I did the installation of these that I had previously had these on my 95 Softail. That thing vibrated like a beast, and I was looking for any opportunities to try to help minimize those vibrations, because after a long day of riding, like, your skin's crawling and you're just right, like it's a lot. In an old Evo, the engine is mounted, or at least for the Softails, the engine is mounted directly to the frame, so you feel it all. It's not a counterbalanced engine. It's not like the nicer stuff that we have today where it's comfortable, right? So I had bought the Avon grips for that ride, and I loved it. They didn't, I'll be real, they didn't like make a phenomenal difference between, you know, having them and not having them, but it was significant enough where you felt it, right? So it was good enough. In this particular case, the grips that I had, they were rock hard, man. They weren't comfortable at all. I wanted something a little bit better. So with these Avon grips, they're a little bit bigger, so you get more of a good grip feel to them. With the kind of the lumps here, it gives you like a more comfortable feeling. And then these things they've got like air in them, right? So there's that bit of cushion there. For longer rides, super comfortable. So just as I experienced before, they're amazing. If you're looking for a good set of grips that are comfortable and reasonably priced, Avon ISO grips, man, they're the way to go. These things are awesome. The one thing I will call out is, and I mentioned during that video, is the installation for the left side grip. If you're running older bikes, they tell you to hack off the little plastic ending of it, and then you slide it on because it doesn't go in the housing. For bikes after, I think in the twin cam era, those ones, it actually goes in the housing, so you don't cut it off. And then I'm assuming 2014 and up, just because this is a 17 and I had to do this, that part does not go in the housing again. And because of that, you have to hack it off. But in their instructions, it doesn't tell you that. So just beware. You know, you didn't get a bad set. You didn't get anything wrong with it. It's obviously something that they've missed in their documentation, but not a big deal. They do work, and they're reasonably priced. So check them out. Avon ISO grips. You can get them on like Amazon, and I'm sure all the other guys carry them, but I found the best deal through Amazon. So yeah, good to go, man. Anyhow, there you have it. ISO grips, Cerwin Vega speakers, Cerwin Vega amplifier, and my thoughts and advice, if you can call it advice, because I'm no professional, but my experience, let's say that, on sound and the things you need to do to get your stereo set up on your Road Glide. I hope you enjoyed.